Hello everyone, welcome to or back to the new grid. I'm Kyle, and in today's video I take Full Self-Driving Beta 10.8.1 on a drive. Now, my first impression of this software was I thought, oh, it's going to just be a slight incremental update to 10.8. It's not going to have any AI changes. It was just going to have the more driver monitoring to it, and that's basically the release notes were all the same except for that. So that's what I'm thinking going into it. And I don't even record right away when I first drive it, but I was kind of blown away by it. So then I take and record my normal drive, roundabouts and out the one road. Going through each of those roundabouts, it was almost flawless. I did have to press the accelerator a couple times, and it was more of a just touch it, and then it just took off and kept going as it needed to. So I was really blown away. But I continued down the path, and there were a few cases where the mailboxes stuck out as people instead of the mailboxes, and it was trying to correct for those, and then it noticed them. It really wasn't that bad as for where it would try to swerve around them or brake hard. It more or less realized in time and kept going, maybe a mile an hour or so slower or slight swerve. So I was really impressed. And of course, I think I said this on the last video, I'm impressed with the fact that they finally put the turn signal on before you turn down the road way, basically as you're starting to slow, which is what you need to do to warn people that you are going to indeed turn. So that worked flawlessly. And I apologize for the shakiness of these videos. I didn't realize I had some sort of issue with my mount, and I'm still trying to resolve it. I think I've got it a little bit better for future videos, but that's one reason why it'd be nice if you'd like or subscribe to this channel, because that'll help me improve my equipment a lot quicker. So anyways, as I get to the end of this road, it basically just doesn't stop like normal. It does detect that there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign ahead, but it doesn't actually start slowing down or recognize it on the system. So I don't know why it shows up, but it doesn't detect it. But anyways, it just keeps going the 55 miles an hour and doesn't start slowing down until it's way too late to hit those railroad tracks, so I have to take over for that. But other than that, this drive was flawless and it worked really well. So I'm just blown away. The next day I think, well, I'll take and record some more. And so I do. And I get into all kinds of different edge cases when I'm recording. So one instance is I have a train that's coming and I'm the first one in line. So one thing that I've noticed, and I've noticed this before, and I probably should forward this as some of my feedback to Tesla, is that when it's approaching that railroad crossing, the crossing arm, it slows down, but it wants to keep moving closer and closer to that crossing arm. And I think that stopping right at that crossing arm is a little bit too close for comfort. So I like to stop back a little farther. And that also gives me the opportunity for, hey, if this train stops, I can have plenty of room to turn around and go an alternative route if I need to. Whereas if I'm right up against that crossing arm, I'm not going to have that ability to do that. And that's something that Tesla probably should start thinking about, is these cases. What if that train just decides to stop and now you're basically stranded in that area until the cars behind you move? So that was my first case that I noticed. Next, I'm basically had just left that railroad crossing and I'm heading up a hill and I see there's some trucks and I'm thinking, oh, they're on the side of the road, no problem whatsoever. That's my perspective. And as I'm getting closer, I realize, oh wait, they're on the road, they're fixing potholes, and they've got the traffic basically routing around into my lane. So there's a spot where I had to take over just because there were cars basically going down in the same lane that I was for a head-on collision. Now, whether Tesla would have done better than that, I think it should have at least started slowing down sooner. like at the point where I realized, oh, this is happening, I need to wait my turn before I can go through. Now, part of this I think is kind of flawed because the person directing traffic was on the other side of the next railroad track, and there was no one on my side, which means they didn't have two people coordinating to stop people ahead of time. So that's another kind of issue with how they were handling the traffic anyways. Now, of course, I was tied up at a railroad track and then finally got to go through, and they weren't aware of that and were continuing to direct traffic around their vehicle. So they did finally stop them as I neared, and I was able to go around them. So that was the next little issue that I ran into, which is definitely an edge case. You don't have that very often, but it still reminds you that, hey, you do need a human driver in order to continue going down these roadways. And then I do see a few little flaws, like there's a cutout of a cow on the side of the road, and it kind of hesitates as it approaches that. So I kind of think it's funny how it must recognize that as a cow and it's kind of trying to think, hey, are they crossing here or not? Because it doesn't actually show up as a human on the screen, and I've kind of been watching through that just to see several different times that I've been through that, and it did do that the first time, but hey, it's a little braking, which isn't very bad. And then next, it's following kind of close to, it's not close to a trailer, it's following at a safe distance, but the trailer's obstructing its view quite a bit, so it decides to pick the turn-only lane that turns into a place rather than to pick the lane that continues on straight for the route. So there's where it kind of made a deviation. Now, I've said in the past, at least while I'm recording the videos, that, hey, I'm impressed that it keeps picking the straight lane in this case, because I've seen autopilot take over and try to go down that lane before I was even on beta. So I've been impressed that it's been picking the correct lane up until this point. So why, with a bigger trailer blocking the view, it decides to pick the wrong route. And later on, it also then tries to get into a right-hand turn lane, just slightly swerves over, and then gets back over. So following a trailer like that obstructs its view further ahead must affect a little bit of how the autopilot algorithm decides what lanes to pick. So that kind of reminds me of, hey, we still need a human to drive because there are several edge cases still to be found. And I've had other edge cases since then that I didn't get on video, like I had a funeral procession going on, so the cars in front of me stopped, put on their hazard lights, so I also had to stop and wait for that to pass by, something that beta probably would have just tried to swerve around and keep going, but I just pulled over and stopped. Another instance that I also saw was when I was driving down a road, they had very temporary construction up, so they basically just had a truck with a few guys in front of them and maybe another truck in front of that, where they were working on the road picking up some stuff. And so it was just a truck with the merge over, no warnings of it or anything, and beta was just cruising along, and I'm like, I've got to take over and get over into the other lane on this. I wish I would have had that on video, but unfortunately I forgot to hook up my camera at that point, and I actually didn't have it with me because I was working on the shakiness to try to figure out what was causing that and try to resolve that. I think I've got it fixed, but I did order some parts. So it would be helpful if you would subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.